This was in 2018. We have this manager at the office. He's not my direct supervisor, but I um, I have to work with him, and he's actually smart. Just one look at my report, and he already knows that there's something wrong with my report. He's attractive, but he's not my type. When the ladies sees him, they'll be like, "Hi, boss." And when he speaks, he's so demanding, like very authoritative, and I didn't like him. And it's not about the vibes. I just don't like him. That's it. And so there was this time that I was working, and he came to my workstation, and he said, Gresh, I want you to apply for this job position. And I said, do you think I'm a good fit for the position? And he said, yeah, I believe so. So he began to tell me about the details of the job. And I said, what's in it for me? And he said, salary raise. And I said, let me think about it. You know, money is a motivating force. And you know why? Of course, I do have two daughters to feed, and the beauty products. It's secondary. And so he said, okay, I'm gonna give you 24 hours to think about it. And I said, why does it have to be 24? I have a lot of things to do. Can it be like next week? And he said, no, I'll get back to you tomorrow with your decision. So the next day, he went to my workstation, and so he asked me, all right, have you made up your mind? And I said, yeah, I did. And he said, well, and I said, okay, I'm gonna apply for the job, but I do have one condition. And then he said, okay, what is it? And I said, I don't want you to be my manager. And he's like, okay, yeah, sure. And so luckily, I got the job. And a few months passed, and we were talking about an issue in the office. And he said, my EQ meter is shaking. So at the office, I always have this resting bitch face, RBF. But, you know, deep inside me, I thought it was funny and cute. What was that? And there was this one time that he needs to introduce a new team member. And so he was introducing the new team member to the team. And when he was about to introduce me, he said, this is Gresh. Gresh is amazing. She has a business while she's working, blah, blah, blah. And of course, I do have my RBF, but deep inside me, what? And I simply whispered to my friend. I told my friend, I can't believe you're saying good things about me. And my friend said, what? It's always like that. He's always saying good things about you, as if you're his daughter. And I'm like, my behavior is unacceptable. Can I transform into a cockroach just for 20 minutes because I don't know how to face him? Well, you know, at least I'm not pretentious. And so there was this other time that we were talking about work as usual. And he said to me, Gresh, you know what? I always believe that people can change. Of course, I have my RBF, but it deep inside me. Yes, I know, sir. I know I am a man. And so, you know, the pandemic came and he was transferred to another department. And I didn't have, you know, real-time updates about him. But I think in 2021 or 2022, he filed his resignation. And so we had, another manager who came in. And this manager was saying, yes, you know what? Everyone is saying that I'm like DJ. Of course, RBF, no. But deep inside me, I do have my explanation. No, you're nothing like him. First of all, DJ doesn't sleep in his car during Sunday shifts. And second, are you really that insecure to compare yourself to a man who has integrity? And third, even if you're 5 meters away from me, your vibe is so strong, I can literally smell your ego. So, no, you're not gonna get the validation from me. There. Anyway, and so when I had this breakup with my long-term partner, I was doing my gratitude journal, and I suddenly thought about him, about that manager, and my heart is just saying to reach out to him. And so I sent him this lengthy message. I was just, thanking him for the things that he've done for me, and some other stuff. And he replied to me. He said that I don't have to thank him because what he did for me is just a small percentage, and I did all the hard work. And yeah, he's actually one of the leaders that I look up to. And so when I was soul searching in December 2025, I was thinking, why didn't I like him at first? And then I realized I can see myself in him, like smart, attractive, but not my type, demanding, and authoritative. And I said, yeah, that's it. Yeah, so you gotta give a chance to know someone, because you'll never know, that person may unleash the potential that you don't even realize that you have.